Yeah.
I said, because he never missed it.
Steve didn't ask to go.
Why? Come on.
Okay, folks, we're going to go right to questions, and this is only going to be 15 minutes. We've got to get 3 other coaches in here, and we're going to do one and done in terms of the questions. Any kind of follow-up just needs to be on that topic for clarification. We get so many people that want to ask questions, guys, that we just have to make a few changes. So we're going to open up front row right down to Barry WBNS.
Coach, obviously the bye week, does it come at a good time? And what's your philosophy on bye weeks? You're on a bit of a roll, but you also have banged up players.
No, I think it does come out at a good time, and I think you bring up a good point. There's times where you start to get into a rhythm, and then you don't want that bye week. I don't know if that's the case here. We're going to practice today, tomorrow, Thursday. Really put some good 3 days of practice in and keep grinding on this thing. But it does allow us to get a few guys healthy heading into the Iowa game.
Right behind him, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Looks like you're getting a lot of love nationally, pundits, whoever. I mean, do you subscribe to that Nick Saban rat poison type of thing?
Well, I think our guys would tell you that, it doesn't really matter other than winning the next game. I think the guys understand that. I don't think that any of the guys really even care about that because it doesn't matter. The only one that matters is the one at the end of the season. So, we have to keep winning, and that's all we're focused on right now, quite honestly.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals 97.1.
Ryan, what's the structure for practice this week? And outside of getting healthy, what would you like to accomplish?
Yeah, we're gonna practice today, tomorrow, Thursday, and then do our +1 like we typically do going into coming off of a bye week. So, we want to, as a staff, look at what we've done, look at where we're headed, evaluate everybody in the program, and kind of see things we've done well and enhance those, but things that we need to improve on. We obviously want to get healthy, get some guys, back out in the field. Want to get some guys who are playing with a few things, healed up, and then continue to work good on good fundamentals and technique. As you get 5-6 games into the season, you can start to get scheme oriented, and we can't do that. So we're going to dive back into fundamentals, techniques, and try to identify the things that we're going to need to get done here in the home stretch.
Right behind him, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Ryan, your punt and punt coverage have been very good this year, but I think maybe the rest of the special teams operation has been a little hit or miss. Just how are you feeling about that as a whole, especially the return game with some of the drop balls?
Yeah, we're going to do a better job fielding the ball. I think if we do that, then we feel a little bit better about all of it. But certainly we can't be doing that. We got to make sure we field the ball better. I think that's a good time right now to look at that and figure out if we have the right personnel in all groupings and certainly in special teams as well.
Right behind him, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
When you have a chance to get Common Core in the game, CJ's out and Kyle's in, how do you balance, giving him enough of the offense to see what you need to see because he might be your quarterback next year and also not want to be disrespectful?
Well, it's obviously a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong, but it is something that you want to make sure you respect the game, and but at the same time, you do want to kind of get him going a little bit. And we tried to get that third down conversion. We got him on the outside the pocket on the naked. I thought he threw a nice ball there. We had the third down where he was reading the end. I thought maybe we could have done a little bit better job just across the board, not just him. But we convert right there. Maybe we move the ball down the field. You start to get inside of 5 or 6 minutes in the fourth quarter when you're up in a lopsided game. I just kind of want to make sure I respect the game in that area, but certainly want to get him in the game, especially if it's at the end of the third quarter, early fourth quarter, and get some first downs and let him go play.
Fourth row right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman row.
Ryan, you talk about rest, recovery, trying to get guys healthy, but at the same time, there's a lot of work I'm sure you think needs to be done. You look at their cornerback position. Is this the perfect time for them to really get some work in and try to improve their game?
Yeah, I mean, when you're identifying in all three phases what needs to improve, the things we've done well, the things we need to improve on, I don't think it's any mystery that one of the things we got to do is finish some plays out at corner. We're right there. We haven't quite finished some of them. I did think Denzel played better in this game, probably his best game to date, so that was good. Didn't get the ball, thrown his way a ton, but I thought he played his best game. You can say, well, they made a nice catch, but we make some nice catches too. I mean, that's college football now. Guys are making pretty high-end catches, so we got to learn to finish. Especially one-on-one situations, because we know that's going to keep coming our way until we can prove that we can. So that'll be a huge emphasis this week.
Right next door, Cameron T. Robinson, the athletic.
Brian, kind of off that, you talked after the game, like you said, they're there, you just need to make plays at corner. Is it as simple as just finding the ball? I mean, Cam got that PI on a broken play, really, but is it simple as just finding the ball for those guys?
Yeah, I just think the more and more times we put them into those situations, the more comfortable they're going to feel and the better they'll be. So it's our job as coaches to continually put them in those positions and give them an opportunity to learn from it and grow and get better. So that's what we're going to do.
Right next door, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, you've been speaking highly of Lathan Ransom since his freshman year.
Yeah.
Given the 2 years that he had until now, the way he's playing now, just your thoughts as his coach on seeing that rise.
Yeah, I think you're seeing, what he's capable of. He's very intelligent. He's very athletic. Has really good football IQ. You can see how much ground he covered on that first play on the touchdown, and still was able to hang on to the ball. He's got really good ball skills. So great to see him healthy. Great to see him running around. Now he's got some games under his belt. So I think you're seeing the best version of Lathan.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, before last week's game, you mentioned Jordan Hancock, somebody you're hopeful to get back after the bye. If he is able to come back second half of the season, what kind of impact can he have? What did you see throughout the offseason? What sort of role do you envision for him?
Well, he's, we were hoping going into the season he'd be battling for a starting position. So I guess that wouldn't really change coming off of an injury, but he's got to get back on the field and prove that, he's just got to start out by getting some games under his belt, and then we can kind of go from there. But we'll be better if he's in the lineup and, start off by providing some depth and then go from there.
Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, how would you describe your offense right now? It's just so multiple. I don't think it's as simple as calling it a spread. I mean, you guys are doing some offset I formation. I think you're doing more 12 personnel than ever, 3 tight ends more than ever. Just how would you describe your offense right now?
We're trying to find different ways to attack the defense based on the guys that we have. I think when you look back 10 years ago, maybe more now, it was like the spread offense was kind of, the new thing, and that was creating a little bit of stress for the defense. And so I think maybe, defenses over time have kind of caught up to just lining up in spread sets. Actually, I know they have. And so now we're trying to find more creative ways to create new surfaces, bigger surfaces, different formations that, you're not giving them what they're working on. You're not giving them what they're practicing. And now there's a fine line there, and I think our guys, it's not easy here. We do a lot of stuff. And so guys have to be really well prepared coming in every day. It's not just we're going to run the same plays every week. We're not going to do that. But I think they enjoy that. I think they really embrace the challenge of, trying to give the defense a lot of problems. But at the end of the day, we still have our base things that we'll do that we'll line up and play. We know what our base is. We know what our identity is. But I think the guys enjoy coming in on Tuesday thinking, okay, what are the new things coming in this week? And then go putting it on the field. And it's fun. You can see the excitement of when we execute plays that we've been working on that maybe are new. You can see the excitement. They enjoy that. And I think that's a tribute to our coaches, but more importantly, our players coming in every day, with the ability to go take a meeting to the field and then go put it onto the game field, because that's not easy to do.
Right behind him, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
I know you're not going to sit here and try to take any awards for CJ yet halfway through the year, but just halfway through his second year as a starting quarterback, what are some things you've liked, maybe some things you haven't liked, just kind of evaluate what you've seen from him so far?
Yeah, I think, all right, so first 6 games, I mean, I think the first thing you notice is just his movement. I think that, you could see that in the first couple games, his movement has been improved. Whether it's been, out of the pocket, doing some things that are designed or not designed, scrambling, extending plays like he had to do in the first game and a couple other games. So I think that's been good. I think his red zone play has been excellent. I think when he's had to throw the ball away, he's thrown the ball away, but he's also made some really good throws down there, which has led to us being successful in the red zone. But overall, I just think it's his leadership, his vision, his accuracy, all the above.
Right behind him, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, I heard you say on the radio last week that, you guys had a lot of injuries, and you've noticed that around the country, a lot of teams are having to play depth because of injuries. Do you think there's any reason why maybe there have been more injuries this year?
Yeah, I don't know if I have the numbers or data to back that up. I don't, but it was something that I just kind of felt, and I don't know, but it does, challenge your depth when you're in those types of situations. And I have been proud of the guys who had to step up, whether it's been in special teams or some different positions, going into some games with two freshmen, corners who had never really had any experience before, or, a running back position. We've had some stress at a couple positions that we've had to go play some depth. And so that's been, I think, another thing. If you're just identifying what are the things that have been positive in the first 6 games, I think we've seen some of that go on. Our depth has been challenged at different positions, and we've responded pretty well. And hopefully that can, pay off here in these last 6 games of the regular season.
Fourth row left, Jacob Bench, the Lantern.
Yeah, hey Ryan, just going back to CJ. You mentioned, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, he doesn't play for personal accolades, doesn't really care too much about the stats. And then he said after the game Saturday that he's dedicating the season to Dwayne Haskins. He said he writes like his cousin's name and stuff on wristbands and whatnot. Just what does it mean to you to see your quarterback play for something bigger than himself?
Yeah, I think you can see it. I think the players can see it. I think you can see his attitude on the sideline. He is not concerned about statistics. I think he understands that they're gonna happen and they're gonna come, but he's focused on one thing, and that's winning and being a leader for his teammates. And when you truly play like that and just have an open heart, and I think it carries over to your team. And naturally his stats are really good, and naturally he's playing at a high level, but that's not what he's focused on. And I think all the guys on the team have embraced that, and certainly his leadership has been felt. They understand that there's no expectations going into a game. Yeah, we hold each other to a high level. We want to play and be the best team in America. So I think that's probably what you're getting at, and it's not just about him, and it never has been, by the way. I mean, it's just the way he is, the way he's wired, and I think that's a sign of a great leader.
Deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.
Coach, I guess I'm just curious. I know the goal is to always have that pair and a spare where if somebody's not available, you don't have a drop off. You guys have had a really impressive year in not having a drop off. Have you been around another team that reminds you of the way you guys continue to just plug a hole and execute at the same level?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that, but I think one of the things that happened last year was we had so many younger guys play. So when you look at our roster right now, I mean, we have some juniors and seniors, but we also have some sophomores that are very experienced, because there was quite a few freshmen who played last season, where the year before that wasn't the case. So there was some struggles last year. There was some growing pains. I mean, it wasn't easy. It was difficult at times, but I think now you're seeing some of that experience and some of the things we worked through in the growing pains last year starting to pay off, because these guys played, and there were so many first times last season. So now they're not. So when you're playing guys and putting them in the game, even though they may be sophomores or even some of the juniors, I mean, they played a lot of football. So the depth has been strong, and it comes down to leadership too. I mean, JK and Jair, and they have to step in in Wisconsin, and they hadn't had that experience. But I think the guys around them, Ronnie Hickman and Tommy Eichenberg, and some of the guys who have played before, they put their arm around him and say, we're going to figure this thing out together. I think that's important too. And I think that's the leadership that you need when you're working through an entire season. So I think it's probably a combination of all those things.
Fourth row middle, Andy Anders, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
Yes, Ryan. So obviously, big narrative coming in this year was being able to run the ball when you needed to on the short yardage plays that the defense knows you're going to run the ball. You guys faced a 4th and 1 fairly early in this game while it was still a contest and converted. What made that play successful in as much detail as you can? It looked like there might have been a check to the line, and then how did that set up the touchdown pass to Julian Fleming that immediately followed?
Yeah, I mean, you never know how things are going to go, and that was one that I guess we had the quarter change. There's a timeout. I forget exactly, but there was a long time pondering over that one because, you go down one road, you say, okay, if we get this, and we go down the field and score, it turns into a 2-score game. You don't get it, they get the ball in plus territory, and I think at the time it was 21-13. So you just kind of go back and forth in your mind, and I know how that goes. If you go for it on 4th and 1 and you get it, great call. If you don't, what are you doing? So it's all about the execution. So then the conversation became, do we feel like we have a good play that we can run against the defense that we're expecting? And we thought we did. We thought we got ourselves into the right play there. And I think it was the next play we scored the touchdown on. So I mean, those are the swing moments of a game that you got to have. Those game altering plays, those gap plays that you got to be able to respond, and we did. And so then the whole game changes from there. At least that whole half did. And so that's something we're going to bring up in the meeting today when we talk about the game.
Right next door, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you guys have talked about the balance at running back, and we've talked about it a lot. But when you have guys that can go off the way that they have individually, how do you work with those guys to? I know they're selfless and they don't mind giving up carries, but they also I assume want to be on the field as much as possible. How does that dynamic work with them, especially after they both have back-to-back big games?
Well, I think that it's just unique. I think we've talked about this for a while, but they understand that they need each other, and they both, I don't think, are surprised when the other one's in there that they run so well, and I think they make each other better. So I thought, Dallin came in and did a nice job when he was in there. I thought when we had an opportunity to get Xavier Johnson involved, we handed the ball to Emeka. We found different ways too to spread a couple carries around, which I think is good for the offense and healthy. But yeah, when you have Mayan and Trey both in there together, that they have a couple different running styles as well, so that keeps the defense on its heels. And maybe even having a couple packages where they're both in there. So once we get them healthy, that opens up a lot of doors for us.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Right, I know injury timetables are hard to predict anyway, and not your favorite topic. But what's your level of confidence that for the Iowa game you're going to get some of your key guys back? I mean, Mayan, Jackson, whoever else.
Yeah, I mean, going into today's meeting, going through the injury report, really for a bunch of those guys, it was the expectations that they're going to play for the Iowa game. Now, they still have to come along and they have to have a good week and all that, but that's the goal right now is to get them. Get them healthy this week and have a full week of practice next week, and those guys are ready to roll for Iowa.
And other guys that are long-term injuries that they're just not going to be back this year.
Yeah, there are some, like Mitchell Melton and Evan Pryor. Yeah, we're still hoping to get Cam Babb at some point. Probably not for the Iowa game, but we're hoping to get him back at some point this season. If there's anybody else, then we'll get with Jerry and try to figure out who's that. Yeah. Well, we still might be able to get him back yet later on. So I think that right now, yeah, that's probably the long term. And if there's any updates on that, we'll let you know. But right now, the rest of the guys we're expecting to have for the Iowa game, it'll be kind of based on how this week goes. Yeah.
Over here to the right, Tim May podcast, Letterman Row.
Ryan, like Dave Biddle asked you a while ago about the diversity of this offense and stuff, and like you said about the excitement of guys coming in on Tuesday, what's new? You and your staff, do you ever also think about how much you're overloading the defensive coordinator for the next week or the next week or watching that video? How much does that kind of come into play a little bit in a almost diabolical way?
Well, yeah, I mean, sure. No, I think the more things that we can put on film, the more ways we can attack defenses, then the more stress we put on them. And I think that's the balance of like what's too much where you can't execute anything, what's too simple where teams can just tee off and see, okay, this is this set, there's the back right there, and here comes this, you know. So that's the balance you try to find. But when you have players, obviously you have the talent that our guys have, but have the football IQ to be able to take a play and put it on a field at a high level, like we saw this past week, man, that opens up a lot of options for us. And we're just blessed to have such great players, and the ability to process high levels of information. They're
Is your intent every week to have something fresh? I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah,
more than one. Yeah.
Got time for two more. Second room, Doug Lane-Reese, Cleveland.com.
Trying to think how to explain this. So you've been asked about Kyle McCord and trying to figure out how to play him at end of games a couple times.
Sure.
The backup's always one play away. It's a little more front of mind. Alabama just had to play a whole game with its backup quarterback. How much do live game reps in a blowout help a backup quarterback? How important are they in development compared to practice and everything else? And whenever we've asked you about it, you've brought up this idea of not wanting to be disrespectful at the end of games. And I think that makes a lot of sense in the non-conference, that kind of thing. Why is that front of mind for you in a conference game where, you guys theoretically are all equal? Why is that still a factor for you?
The first part, I think, yeah, it is. I think it's good to get him in the game, get whoever in the game, whether it's the quarterback or anybody else. Just getting those game reps under your belt is different than in practice for sure. But that's just the way that I've always believed. The game should be played. I think when you're rolling and you're in the third quarter, you're beginning of the fourth quarter, go play. But when you start to get towards the end of those games and they get a little lopsided, I just think that's the way to respect the game.
Fourth row left, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
I just want to go back to the question about the cornerbacks. As you look ahead for what this next week needs to be for them, for Denzel and Cam, I guess, especially at the top of that list, do those guys need a lot more reps? Do those guys need a break? How do you sort of look at the week for them, just because that is the position that's maybe stood out?
I think that these 3 days are great days to get better, and then take a couple of days to catch their breath. But I think we got to try to. The best way to coach is to put players in game situations. So how do we create those exact situations that have happened in the first 6 games, and then allow them the opportunity to find the ball? Simple as that. It's not really complicated, but without doing it so much that we blow their doors off. We got to make sure that we're keeping them healthy. But that's it. We just have to try to find a way to simulate the game and make it harder, make practice harder than the game, so that when they get there, they're ready to make that play.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, guys, thanks.
All right, folks, we're going to open up the floor for Coach Jim Knowles. We'll go fourth row left, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
I'll just follow up with the same question I asked Brian, I guess, in some ways. But as you look at that cornerback position, what do you feel like this defense needs to accomplish during this week, heading into another week of game? Is there something specific about this week that you can do to help Denzel and Cam and those other guys just raise that level play?
Yeah, Coach mentioned it. You want to make practice as game-like as possible. We have the best receiving core in the country, so you have to balance. And that's what Coach Day does a great job of, balance how many reps to get. We'd like as many reps as possible. I mean, I would, but there's got to be a limit because you want to avoid injury and all that too. But creating as many competitive situations as we can for those guys so that they can get better. But ultimately their production on game day is my responsibility, right? So if we're taking shots at that position, I have to look at myself too and say, well, are we showing our hand too much? Am I giving those guys every chance to be successful through disguise and coverage variation? So, that's my responsibility and something we'll look at hard over the bye week.
Deep right field, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Jim, when you look at the way that the defensive line is playing, how much can they continue to help when the cornerbacks are kind of going through, I guess, in the back half of the year? It seems like if you have a better defensive line, obviously, but it helps the corners out. But the way they're playing right now just seems like a different level.
Yeah. So, I say coverage and rush, they defense responds working together. So it's a group effort. And, our front is productive and strong and attacking and, confident. And that helps the coverage. And it's all working together, right? It's my job to make sure that quarterback holds the ball for that extra split second. So that he can't be decisive about the coverage that we're in, and that leads to more production up front, and it's better for everybody. But as much as we can keep those guys going and fresh and attacking the line of scrimmage and the quarterback, our coverage will continue to be better.
For the right, Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Jim, kind of off that, with how good the defensive line has played, I mean, I think because as you say, you were able to rush for a decent amount and still get pressure. How does that change kind of your mentality as a play caller? Decide, I want to blitz here, disguise a blitz, or play coverage with how well the safeties and linebackers are playing this year?
Yeah, it's everything, right? If you're creating pressure without bringing extra guys into the mix, then it gives you a lot more options in terms of the coverage and looks and things that you're able to do at the line of scrimmage, pre-snap and post-snap. So as the competition gets more intense, we need to be able to have the ability to bring pressure, to add guys into the rush. And you've seen it a little bit, but we have a much larger arsenal, I guess, than we have displayed, because our front is doing a great job of getting that pressure on the quarterback without bringing extra guys.
Right next door, Tony Gervin, Buckeye Huddle.
Jim, I think a lot of college safeties would just be getting back now from a broken leg in the Rose Bowl. Given how Lathan Ransom has played to this point, how surprised are you that he's done so well, and how well is he playing right now?
Yeah, I mean, everything that Lathan does on the field is a bonus in my mind, because we did not have, from the time I arrived, I didn't have him out there, and he just shows up. He's the guy that jumps off the video. He's the guy that during the game, as I'm watching it from my vantage point, shows up in all the right places, and he's decisive. So credit to him, and he loves to play football, and I think for a guy to come back from that significant injury is really a good story to tell.
Right in front of him, Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland.com.
Jim, what is your process when deciding how many reps a guy is going to get in the game? Between the position coach, yourself, maybe even Ryan is involved in that. How do you work that out, and sort of who has the greatest say there? And then whenever you're maybe thinking about starting somebody new at a position, how serious of a decision is that? Is it just, hey, the guy who can help us win the most is who's going to play? Or is there any hesitation of maybe taking a guy out of the starting lineup and putting somebody new in?
I think it's always you have to know your players, and if a guy's battling for a position and it's back and forth and not that much needs to be said. Those kind of battles, they happen, one guy's on the rise, just playing better. But I think if it's a drastic change, you have to make sure that, we do, that the players are aware of it, the parents, the whole group, everybody, from coach day on down. We're very sensitive to that, to make sure that, because guys put a lot of work into this life that they lead. So it's our job to be up front with them. So different situations, right? I mean, if it's a close battle back and forth week to week, not much needs to be said. When it comes to reps, yeah, I think, most of the time that goes to the position coach. I mean, that's ultimately a position coach's responsibility, but Coach Day will weigh in, or I'll weigh in if we think there's a need to. But I mean, we have a lot of great coaches, so they really manage that. When you create a group of these guys are game ready, that's these guys are game ready. And that's what we talk about. Who's game ready? Once a guy is deemed game ready, then really it becomes up to the position coach how they rotate him back and forth.
Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Jim, halfway through the regular season, you guys are ranked 7th in the country in total defense. What's maybe one thing you're really happy about with your defense, and maybe one thing that you're like, we've got to get better at this?
I'm pleased with where we're at in the run game. We can be better, but I'm just pleased in the way we're fitting things and the way that we're playing fast. Guys seem to know the scheme and where they fit and where the ball is going to come out. You feel good about not getting creased. Guys are in the right places, which is always important, particularly with a new scheme. And then, we third downs, right? I'm pleased with that. I think in both the run game and third downs, we still have more that we can do. We're just starting to approach the level that we want to be at, but there's more that we can do in those two areas. And then we got to be better at those 50-50 balls. I mean, that's just the reality of playing defense is you can play great all game and they can just toss a couple up in the air. And if you don't win them, you give up a couple touchdowns, and that's the game we play, but we want to get better in that area.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Michael Hall Jr. had 2.5 sacks. I think at only 7 snaps. First of all, how good is he? What's it like to have him on your defense, and why only 7 snaps?
Well, he's coming off an injury. He's battling injury. He's fighting his way back. Mike loves to play, so he comes in practice and maybe doesn't re-injure or doesn't feel great, and then has to back off. So it's like a push-pull kind of thing. You're trying to get him those reps during the week. So we just thought it would be a good idea to ease him back into the lineup, someplace where he could just be aggressive, and play fast. And that was the plan. His production for 7 plays is exceptional. Obviously we'd like to play him more, and he will as he gets healthier, but that was definitely the plan this week, and it worked out well.
Right next door, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, you mentioned, at least with Tommy, the way he picked up the defense, that middle linebacker spot was really advanced for somebody who coached. Steele's the other guy starting with him, and somebody who didn't play a ton at the position until last year. What do you think of the way he was able to learn stuff this offseason and take it to the field through 6 games?
Yeah, Steele is he's just making continual progress all the time. Smart, enjoys playing, has picked things up well. I think what you're seeing in Tommy is advanced. I think he's really kind of not the norm, but Steele has picked it up at a sound pace and has become more and more productive as the weeks have gone on.
Third row left, Dan Hope, Lebanon Warriors.
Jim, I know you talked a lot before season about how, installing, kind of ramping that up over the course of the offseason. Is there more stuff that you look to install this week during a bye week?
There are things that we've installed that we have not shown yet. So, we do that. I do that as I kind of think weeks in advance. So we want to be able to, I don't think it's best if you install something that week and put it in the game. I mean, sometimes you need to do that, but I'd much rather think ahead, and we've put things in now that you'll see in the upcoming week. So we'll continue that in the bye week. I don't think it'll be like, hey, let's download some more during this week because it's the bye week, but we try to stay a few weeks in advance. I do with my thinking. So we'll just continue at the same pace. It's working, and I definitely don't want to put more on the players.
Right in front of Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Follow up on what Doug was asking a little bit with Lathan and Josh specifically. I know you guys are teaching them everything, but everybody's natural skill sets are different. Can you just talk about the difference between what Lathan brings to that safety spot versus what Josh brings to that safety spot, and how that maybe shows up in the game?
Yeah. I feel like Lathan has some versatility in between the adjuster and the bandit position. I think he seems to be a guy who can be both strong side, weak side, fit the run pass, see the concepts, maybe in a broader spectrum. Josh is, I mean, I think he's really good when he has a specific assignment and direction and is able to really just unleash and play fast. So Lathan plays bandit, and he can do that from a physical standpoint, but I think he also thinks and sees the game like an adjuster, more like Ronnie does, so that it's more versatility.
Fourth row left, Jacob Benz, the Lantern.
Yeah, hey Jim, take a look at, you mentioned the linebackers there. See Steel Chambers step up the way he has the second year as a starter, and you mentioned how smart he is intelligently. How does he step up as a leader on the practice field and in games as well? You see his production on the field, but as a leader as well, how does he around his teammates?
Steele is always a positive player, right? I guess that's his contribution from a leadership or mentality standpoint. He is a guy who doesn't let one play bleed into the next. If it didn't go well, he brings that attitude of next play attitude and vision towards being our best, rather than looking back when things don't go quite as well. And I think that helps him in his own game. Even during practice, when I try to be hard on him, he's developed a great mentality of just always looking forward. And I think that's, you want that in all your players. And sometimes we try to test them at practice to put them into that mode, so they can block it out when the time comes. And he brings that to the defense.
Deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now and Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Jim, you've made it really clear with us how high your standards are. You guys are playing opposite an offense that has exceeded at extremely high levels, whether it's in practice or on film. Do you sense that your defense plays with a certain level of freedom, knowing that the offense is going to score most times 40-plus points a game? I mean, does that help them play with a certain freedom or a certain aggression?
It's tough for me to answer. I mean, it'd be a good question for them, for our players, because I've never talked to them about that, because I kind of, it's my job to push the opposite. It's my job to prepare them. We talk about making a stop on that play, on that series, no matter what the score is. And I have to drive that point home, for when and if there's a time where it becomes more competitive. I don't think that's something that a defense can just turn on all of a sudden and say, oh, we're in a close game. We better pick it up. I don't think that's the way you create great defense. So I'm on them all the time, regardless of the score. But it'd be a good question for them. I would think if I was a player, it certainly helps, because our offense does so well. But I try to get them to just think about that series, no matter what the score is.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Jim, these 50-50 catch situations, I know sometimes the guy just makes a good play. I think that might have happened on the Jaden Reed touchdown there. A nice catch by him. Outside of those plays where the offensive guy just makes a good play, what do you think is missing in those moments for your guys, whether it's, I don't know, getting your head around or physicalities? What are you harping on in those situations?
Well, we talk a lot about winning at the line of scrimmage. I think when you go back to some of the plays that haven't gone in our favor, you have to look back to the start of the play. And if we're in press coverage, and to make sure that we're throwing our best punch at the line of scrimmage, because that helps the route down the road. And then, it's all about where are you at on the field? What's your, inside, outside, close to the sideline, close to the hash mark. There are all kinds of coaching points that you can give. And, it comes down to fitting what the player does best with the techniques. There are a lot of techniques, and our coaches are on top of all of them. But you have to kind of melt what's best for the player combined with the technique. And, also the play call. Like I said, people, you can talk about not making the play on the 50-50 ball, but I have to say, you guys don't have to if you don't want to, but I have to say, hey, why is this guy incurring so many shots, right? I mean, how do I need to disguise things better, change things up differently, so that doesn't happen. So offenses don't feel that they can do that. So I have to look back on at myself. So it's not just at split second at the top of the route. It's football. There's a lot that goes into it, and practicing, and winning at the beginning of the play, throwing punches, and then the play call, and what's the quarterback seeing, what's the offensive coordinator seeing. Am I creating the best situation for that guy to be successful?
Got time for two more. Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals.
Jim, when you go back to that conversation with Lathan and Proc, is that one of the week by week, game by game battles that you're talking about that's ongoing, or was there something maybe specific to Michigan State that made Lathan, a better fit for that one?
Yeah, it's week to week, right? I mean, again, we deem them both to be game ready. There's a lot that goes on during the week that you guys don't see, like who's banged up, who's practicing more, guys a lot of times playing the games, but maybe they didn't practice quite as much or at the high speed of intensity because they were banged up during the week. So that all goes into it week by week, but they're both game ready.
And right next door, Tim May, Letterman Row.
This may sound a little goofy question, but I think a lot of the guys on your front four are playing extremely well in that rotation stuff. But has Micah Hall become sort of that, oh no, not that guy? When you see him go in a game and stuff with the effort he has shown, obviously Saturday in 7 plays, he put on an almost clinic of how to terrorize a quarterback. I mean, is it important to have a guy like that? I mean, that
you say, oh no, guy, when the other team looks at him.
The other team looks at him, oh no.
I hope so. But that's a good question for Coach Jay. I think he's up next. But I mean, I like to see Mike in there, because I know that for me it's the oh yes guy, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, okay, Mike's ready to go. Now that means any one-on-one matchups that we create through bluffs and different, to get him one-on-one, or the games that Coach Jay calls and things. That means that the probability for success is going to be high, which then goes back to, hey, helping our corners, like we said, in different disguises and things. So he does change the game for us, for sure.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. All right, we'll open up the floor for Coach Johnson, 4th row, middle.
Mike Hall. Get everybody hands for Mike Hall.
Yeah. Andy Andrews, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
So yes, this question is about my call.
All right, go. We're going to know.
He talked in the post-game presser about developing his explosiveness in the offseason. What sorts of things, I guess, how do you develop that trait in a defensive tackle?
Well, it starts in the weight room first. That's the most important thing. Coach Mickey's group did a great job of getting those guys physically ready. That's the bottom line. Second part is just getting ready to play on the field. We probably spent more time this season really attacking the sleds more, and just kind of really pounding the sleds, just get more physical fits throughout practice. So that's one thing that kind of added more up just to make sure that we're physical at the line of scrimmage. And that's kind of helped us.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Kind of a Mike Hall question, but no.
Yeah.
Whether it's moving Zach inside in the rushman package, or when Jack is the Jack moving around, and so Mike is technically on the end now. What has been a more, I don't want to say difficult, but like difficult process developing Mike Hall's edge skills or developing Zach Harrison's?
Well, you got to look at the front. If you look at the 5 technique playing end, it's no different playing 3 technique on the inside. It's the same spacing as we see. It might have more space because he's outside. So we felt when you were a pass rusher, you can rush from the 5 technique, 3 technique very well. You know, you want to see him in a 9 technique wider than that because he would be out of space, too much space for him. So we felt that playing a 5 technique with his skill set, you know, it gives him a chance to still rush the passer. So that's why we do it. Yeah.
Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Coach, what's different about Tehran other than the fact that he's a 5th-year senior and has the experience? He came in as the #1 D tackle in the country. He seems to be playing at that level now. Just what are your thoughts about what's different about him?
I think he came in early, had some injuries. He got set back. You know, I mean, those things set him back. And I thought from the spring on, he kind of really dedicated himself to really make sure he's in great shape. He's in great shape, 305, and that's where he wants to be. But he's playing at a very high level. And he's a great leader on the front 4 for us. I mean, he knows everybody position. He can get them lined up. And that's the thing. I think he's doing a great job. And the leadership skills he brings to us is pretty good, too. So I think that's the biggest thing. He's stronger, he's healthy, and he's playing at a very high level.
Right next door, Bill Rabinowitz, Pulling Dispatch.
Yeah, I noticed at the end of the game, Caden Curry made a play where he kind of like jumped and leaped and made a tackle. I mean, what do you see from him? I mean, does he kind of jump out to you the way that he sometimes does?
I said it to him, Caden Curry is a football player. Put him on the field, and he'll find a way to make a play. And that's what I saw him do in high school. I mean, you just watch him play in high school. He's just all over the field. And that's the kind of player he is. And so as we continue to move forward the next 6 weeks, hopefully get a chance to give him more reps and can I get him a chance to do some things on the field. But I like him a lot, the fact that what he brings to the table.
4th row right, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Larry, just this defensive line, it seems like there's a different person every time they get a big play. Obviously, Mike had a big play, big game, but I mean, Zach Harrison had a good game. I mean, I think JT's probably 3 holes away from 3 sacks the other day. What is the dynamic like with this defensive line that they don't really care who wins, and they know that if each of them do their job, this defensive line is going to increase?
I mean, I think that's the key. I think you said it all. I think, first of all, you got to realize who we are as the Rushmen. We don't care who gets the credit as long as we're all playing hard. And that's the bottom line. And that's something we sell in the room. You know, this play as a group, play as a unit, and we're all successful when everybody has one play. So Mike Hall has great plays, but it celebrates everybody. You go watch the plays, you see a guy that got blocked, I got free, and then Mike is making a play. And I think that's the testament to the players themselves, understanding exactly what the Russians mean, playing together as one. You know, that one pack is what I call it.
Right next door, Tony Gerben, Buckeye Huddle. Larry.
When you guys are charting after the game, GAs or whatever, do you guys keep track of holds and who gets held in terms of the defensive lineman?
Who gets what?
Who gets held by the offensive line?
Not much necessarily. We watch and cut it up, put it on a videotape. You can't dare you send it to the officials, right? You can't send it to the officials. But yeah, we watch it and just see it. Just the kind of guys know it. It's frustrating for our guys. I know it is. You know, just try to keep them. It's part of the game. We just got to keep pressing away, and that's what we try to sell. But yeah, so we have a lock of all those plays. Yeah.
If I say that JT is leading the team and being held, would you agree with that? Where would you put him on the standings?
Oh, he's getting some extra credits. I think there's some extra attention, as would say, for some reason. But that's part of it, though, right? It really is. You know, and you look at the game, look at the play, and you worry about the defensive end. So you start tripling, you start doubling, and when you start doing that, you turn somebody in loose 1-on-1. And that's why the match was pretty good for us. Before, you'd have one defensive end who was really good. You might have another guy, then double, you got nothing. So now when you decide to chip both ends, you turn 2 guys loose on the inside 1-on-1. Maybe the center slide to one guy, but you leave one guy 1-on-1. And we count on that 1-on-1 to win for us.
Deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Coach, thanks for spending some time with us. I want to ask you just about hand fighting. Who in your group do you think is really excelling at shedding offensive linemen because they're really good with their hands?
I think Tehran does a great job. Tehran does a really great job of getting off blocks real fast. If you watch Zach and study Zach does a good job in the run game for us. He really physical in the run game, big, long guy, can get his pads on it. Certainly, Jack Sawyer does a great job in the run game. So I think the guys are doing a good job using their hands and escaping off blocks. That's the biggest thing is when you're getting blocked, it's getting off blocks. And that's something we practice every day, working on getting off football, getting off blocks also.
Far left, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
You guys were a little reticent to give us a lot of details about Jack and what was going to happen there coming into the season for obvious reasons. But looking back on that now, the 8 months from the Rose Bowl to the start of the year, how much did you have to teach Jack Sawyer about that spot, and just how you feel like he's progressed in that spot, and what is still on the table for him in the second half?
There's still a lot on the table that we still haven't done yet in the Jack package. So we have to teach him. Him and Devontae has been our two guys that we've been training for the Jack, and that's why you see Devontae goes in and we train him for a Jack position. But they also have to learn how to play defensive end. And so it's kind of like double duty. So you got to be careful how much we put on his plate, because he's got to play two positions, even though they sing similar, but they have different techniques to go around. So progressively, we're moved forward in it, but we still have some things that we need to do, that we can do, I should say, in the Jack package. Yep.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Kansas Dispatch.
Larry, is there any sort of frame of reference for what Mike Hall did on Saturday to have 2.5 sacks and like 7 snaps every read? Play for the more efficient game.
Okay, so let's break down Mike Hall. All right. So Mike Hall has been injured. He was hurt, and so the game plan was to limit his reps just so we can get him through the bye week and get him healthy. And so we decided that maybe we just rush him in the third down package, just trying to give him a chance to get on the field and keep his skill set going. So that's what happens. So on third down, he goes to the field to rush, and then rushman package. And he got the one-on-one, and that's what you want. You want to get one-on-one. You double Teron or double somebody else. You can let somebody go free. And I thought Mike did a great job with the rush. We twisted a little bit to try to change it, try to create matchups. So that's why he had 8 plays, 2.5 sacks when you go on the field, because he was fresh. He didn't play 30, 35 plays in that time frame, but that was the game plan going in. It was a surprise to everybody, but we wanted to keep him fresh and healthy and going into the next 6 weeks. And we thought that's the best way to handle it for this game. Had it changed, somebody got hurt, he might have played 40 plays, but it didn't happen. So very fortunate we got him out of the game without getting there and re-injuring himself. And then now we can move forward.
Right next door, Tim Mason.
Yeah. Well, now you've answered the Mike Hall thing. I wanted to ask you this. You have a unique perspective here. You were on this staff so many more years before Jim Knowles showed up. What is the biggest difference you've seen on this defense compared to a year ago? Not asking you to maybe cast aspersions, but what do you see that you really like about the way this whole defense is playing, Larry?
It's a different philosophy, first of all. It's a totally different philosophy with anything I've been a part of as a defensive staff. You're talking about a guy who can move the yardstick, can move the bodies, can put guys in great position to make plays. And I think that's what he does well. He can see the game very well from up top. He can call a great game. And I think that's the biggest thing. We're playing at a high level because you know what you're doing faster. You do it faster. But this is a different scheme. I can't compare it to last year or a year before because it's a whole different scheme.
But in other words, what you're saying is y'all are more place specific. I mean, explain that when you talk about guys being able to move faster and stuff.
The key is when you know what you're doing in your position and you do it over and over again, you play faster, right? That's the key of doing your job. And so he allowed us to do it for multiple sets, the same job, but for multiple sets, if you understand what I'm saying now, right? So that's why I think it's much easier. It's hard for you to know where I'm going to line up at every single time if I move the stick every now and then. And I think that's what coach does a great job of changing what we're doing, changing our technique and how we play it. So that's different, totally different.
Mike Hall have a great get off.
It does. Yeah.
Got time for just a couple more. Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals 97.1.
Larry, we know your preference, your philosophy is to rotate and play as many game-ready guys as you see fit. It seemed like maybe the last couple of weeks you've pared that down a bit. Coach Day and Coach Knowles talked about that as well, like maybe letting the starters have a larger share. Is your philosophy evolving? Is that game-ready depth not at the level maybe you thought it would be? What's sort of your evaluation of that?
So I changed is that, you look at the number of plays that we played in a game. So we're at 54, 55, 52. And when you start looking at those numbers, we're not getting a lot of plays. And so you kind of force yourself. You have to play those guys longer to get them game ready for when you got to play 60 or 70 plays. So that's the biggest concern, is to make it a change because we're not playing a lot of plays. The offense is scoring a lot of points and we're sitting on the sideline. And so when you get a little nervous, the D-line coach is like, man, we need some plays. You know what I mean? I'm good, but we still need some plays to get ready for a game. I think the top guy Saturday played 30 plays. We'd like to get that to 40 plays, 45 plays, to be honest with you. And so not to do that, so you gotta hang in a little longer than you normally would. But I haven't changed my philosophy. I believe that playing fresh in the fourth quarter is the key to any defense being successful. The guy's tired. He's no good. So yeah, but that's kind of forcing a change. Yep.
Brett Hyman, Bill Landis, rivals.
Larry, with how well you guys defended the run this year, and it just seems like your guys up front are really controlling their gaps. Did you guys change anything with how you play against the run this year, or what would you attribute that success to?
I just think you got veteran guys coming back, right? And I think that's the biggest key. We have guys that played last year, and now they're back, understand the technique to play our gap scheme. I think that's, and then you move them a little bit to kind of change. And every defensive lineman needs a three-way go. You need to go in, you need to go out, always going forward. And so that's the thing that Coach Knowles done a great job, giving an opportunity to change so we're not sitting darts. You know what I mean? So now when I'm playing a gap, I can play it more physical because I know exactly where I'm at. And if I change the gap, I got a chance to penetrate. So it's a little bit of both. I think it's fundamentals, techniques, and the fact that the scheme allows us to play really solid at the line of scrimmage. Yeah.
And final questions, third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Larry, you said before the season you thought you had an alpha dog on the defensive line. Is all that alpha dog?
Yeah, we still got some dogs left. No, I don't think you can say it right now. We're 6 weeks and we're really pleased where we're at right now, to be honest with you, as a unit. And as a defense, I think the 6 weeks would kind of determine who that guy's going to be. There's some front runners, but I hate to say right today who's the alpha dog. I guess I hope a couple more dogs can run in the pack. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Coach, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Larry.
Jerry with another shout out on national TV broadcast. Why did I say national TV? Jerry with another shout out on the broadcast.
I didn't see it.
Oh, people are so used to it now, they didn't work their phone.
All right. I'm going to get everybody out of here and on time for their flights or their drives or anything. We'll open up the floor for Coach Frye, front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
What's up? Hi, Justin. 6 games through the season, it seems like the O-line's playing well overall. What are you most pleased with? And maybe what's one thing that you still feel like we got to get better at?
Their weekly approach. These guys aren't settled with like, oh, we had a good game last week, let's go. Every week we come in and we find something on film that we need to attack, something that maybe wasn't as clean as we want, and they're looking for that. So that's been the best part. I think if you continue to do that, and as Ryan talks every week, right, it's a new challenge and a new game, and you can't rest on what you've done, and you got to work your details and fundamentals and technique, and these guys are looking for that every week. So that's been probably why, if you say it's been consistent, because on Mondays they show up and they've watched the tape, they've taken notes, they want to know what we can improve on, what we got to work that week, and then we attack that during the week, and they've done a really good job with that.
Is there something that you really want to get better at as you look at your O-line right now?
Just the basics. I mean, when we're supposed to run the ball, you got to run the ball. When we got to protect the quarterback, make sure the quarterback's protected. Staying physical, staying assignment sound. I mean, it sounds all basic, but that's what you got to do. You got to block them so they can't tackle them. And so whether we're throwing the ball or running the ball, we just got to make sure that we're continuing to do that at a high level.
Deep left, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Your players have talked a lot since the end of last season about kind of the chip on their shoulder as far as succeeding, especially in short situations, third and short, fourth and short. Just where do you feel like the performance is right now? And was that something you picked up on early on when you got here, that sort of urgency that you felt about that?
I mean, not really to the back part of that, but I think what they're doing a good job of is situational awareness, like understanding when it's a third and short call, when it's fourth and short call, and what anticipating and those things. I think these guys are just growing every week. And like I said, once again, the information of why we're calling what we're calling, when we call it, what to look for. They've continued to grow in that area. So the situational awareness, I think, has helped those guys a lot. Whereas it's just not another play, whether it be an inside zone, an outside zone, a quick game, a slide protection. But when we're calling it, what area of the field, what the situation on the clock is, they've done a really good job of kind of registering that, which has helped.
Fourth row middle, Andy Andrews, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up what you said there. So situational awareness, what changes as an offensive lineman then, blocking for a third and short play versus blocking for a 1st and 10 play when you're running the ball?
Just the understanding of what the defense can maybe bring to you. Pad level, urgency, gap control. Understanding a P and 10 or a 1st and 10 may look a little different than a 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and 2. And so you may tighten up a technique. You may have a different call that carries in that situation. And it's just reps. I mean, it's with all those guys. I mean, you look across the board. I mean, we've said it 100 times, Paris is now playing the tackle. So he's gotten more reps under his belt. DeJuan's now a 2nd-year full-time starter. he's seen some more of those looks. So, I sound like a broken record all the time when I talk, but they haven't gotten incrementally stronger or faster. The game is starting to slow down because they can register those little things that will help them play at a high level. And they're really starting to do that. And like I said, that's week in and week out. They next week they come in and it's not, all right, we played this team last week. It's the same. It's, coach, what's the answer? What are we looking for here? Because they really want to be bit into that.
It seems like a lot of the big chunk runs have come on that outside zone look where, it's maybe DeWan and Paris kind of stringing out a run or collapsing a line to create a hole. Is there something in their skill set that helps facilitate that?
I can't really speak to that. Maybe we're doing that now, going back right now. You get a good chance in the bye week to look at what you've done well, what you haven't done well. Maybe there's some things that you think you've done really well statistically, or quality control is good, but have you executed those well, or is the defense misfit? I think for our guys, though, our tackles, they're big and athletic, right? So if we can put them in the best situations to run off the ball and have, whether they're double teaming or they're man blocking guys. But once again, it's just, who do you have and how do you block them? And we just got to keep pressing that and week in and week out. And like I said, this just goes back to the kids. I haven't taken a snap in, thank God, in 16, 17 years, right? This is all these guys putting all the work in, and just, it's our job as coaches to try to put them in the best situation to do that. And, it helps when you have big, strong, athletic guys. You have guys that are craving the answers to the test before they take the test, those types of things. So I think all of those build the confidence so that when the play is called, they go out and make the play when their number's called.
Right next door, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Coach Day's talked a lot about your kind of vision that's wider than just the offensive line. And I assume that comes from your time at UCLA and what you were doing there. How have you seen that maybe help your offensive linemen learn the game more than just, okay, I need to block this guy in front of me?
I think just probably the teaching component of how much do I need to give those guys in a certain play. Like we're not going to ask, Matt Jones to know the rotation of the coverage to the boundary and those things, right? So I think as a staff, just as we talk, and once again, it's just putting the guys in the best situation where we can attack the defensive structure that week, and then breaking it down kind of into the Cliff Notes version, or the, as we say, trimming the fat a lot with our guys. What do I need to give to the tackles, to the guards, to the center, saying, okay, on this formation or this set, look for this because this could be coming. So I think just the funneling of the information, probably helps. But I've always really tried to do that. The longer you do coach and get around and been able to be in the pass game and the throw game and skill guys and big guys, I think it's more of a, that recipe of like, what does it need here? Need a little extra sugar, a little extra salt, whatever that is, and just knowing what to give those guys so that they can go play really fast and really physical and really hard.
Back at the wall, Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals.
Justin, when you guys are in practice, who are the defensive linemen that come in and regularly give you the biggest fits? And, is there something that you are getting out of practice that you guys maybe aren't getting in games just in this first half of this season?
I think Ryan does a really good job structuring the practice, especially early in the week. Like you get some good on good reps, or you get those 1 versus 2s where the speed of the game is important. I've been places before and in our past where you get to scout worn down or laid in, and you kind of get into a little bit of malaise, and all of a sudden the speed of the game jumps on you. So, all of the guys, for the tackles, the guards, the centers, having to block our defensive line, an inside drill and good on good matchups and those things we do. They're just putting really good reps in the bank. So that they can draw back on those for the speed of the game. But right now, Larry's doing an unbelievable job of same deal. He's coaching really good players with good technique and good fundamentals, and then the good players are going and making those plays.
Hold JT as much as the opposition does?
No, we never hold. I don't. No, we don't coach holding.
Deep right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Road.
Justin, I asked you in May about Paris and his first round. I don't think he's given up a sack in his career at Ohio State. Are you ever amazed at that stat? And do you see things from him that you wanted to see when we talked in the spring? Have you seen those things from him that make you think, yeah, he's an elite offensive tackle?
Yeah, his skill set he's the same as we started, back with Dave in the beginning. Like every week, he's challenging himself to be better, to do things. He's going to see the things that he didn't do as well on tape the week before. And then, I've got my plan of attack for what it is, knowing twofold that that's what needs to be done. And secondly, he's going to hit me up like, hey, coach, I was down a little bit on this. What drills can we do this week to create that or clean that up? So, yeah, I think he's playing really good ball right now. And every week that's our job to make sure he plays better and better and better. once again, I mean, he's got a really high skill set. So that's just our job as coaches, and then my job to make sure that he plays that way by giving him the right technique, the right fundamentals, the right schemes. And then on Saturdays, just they go let loose and they go play that way, because when you're big and strong and fast and you play that way, then you're not going to get beat a lot, right? And when you do make those mistakes, it's not, oh, something's wrong in the cosmic universe, or it's, why did that happen? Was my first step wrong? Was the identification wrong? Was it the back end of a block? And so kind of just cleaning up the issues that you have there, and then make sure you're not repeating those offenses, and he's been into all that. I mean, that's his whole world. As he's watched the tape, he's taken notes, he's got questions as to why something didn't go, why it was, or, hey, I made this call, was that right? Because here's why I thought that. And then he's just continued to grow that way.
As much fun coaching him as you sound like you do right now?
I love coaching all these guys because of that. I mean, you show up and it's not a chore and it's not a task. Like, that's your job as a coach, to improve your guys. But when they're craving it as much as you are, then it's a ton of fun.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Justin, Ryan, a couple of times this year has described the run game as well targeted, and I'm wondering what that means for your guys up front when he says that, and how much of an emphasis that's been for you guys this year.
It's a weekly process, because the structures, it's twofold. You see structures week in and week out that they put on tape, and then everybody's going to try to throw something at you to throw you a curveball. And so you got to give the kids tools to, if there is a look that might be a little different than what you've seen, how do we make sure we're still, blocking the 6 or the 7 or the 5 guys we're targeted to? And that comes through film study, that comes through the tip sheets, that comes through walkthroughs. And our guys, I mean, we go all the way through the end of the week by Thursday and Friday, where they're really feeling comfortable about all the looks that they could see, because you don't know what you're going to get. But I mean, that's ultimately what you're striving for, because, as I said before too, like, who do you have and how do you block them? It all starts that way. Ryan says it all the time, especially young guys. If you don't know who you're supposed to block, then how can you have any success, right? And that sounds so simple and so elementary, but that's the starting point. And so for us, we've got to make sure that we understand what front we're facing, who the identification is, and then what technique do you use to block who you have. And we just harp on that, because you're tied to task of, once again, really good players playing really hard and really fast. Well, if we block the right guys and we leave the safety for the backs, then the backs run over the safety. If we protect the right people and pass off a twist because we know it's coming, then CJ drops back in rhythm and throws the ball and gets it down the field to all the guys he's throwing it to. So, just constantly harping and having them become habitual with communication. How many downs, who do we have, and then where do we go from there? And not just assuming things or blocking looks or guessing. If we're all on the same page, it's the wrong page. At least we're blocking 5 guys, and that's where you turn those could be negative yardage runs into the ugly 1 or 2s. And I think we've done a good job with that, kind of eliminating the wholesale negative plays so far this year.
Far right, Clay Hall, WSYX.
You've had some kind of snappy sayings there. Is there one that you use more often than trim the fat, or extra sugar, extra salt?
I should use those for me, because as a training table, I get a little heavy during the season, right? I need to trim some of that fat and less sugar and probably more salt to stay hydrated. But you got to give guys things to latch onto in teaching, like just overall as humans learning like groups of 3 and things of 3, right? So with that, I mean, trimming the fat, that's when the kid starts talking. Well, I thought I saw this, so I was thinking this, and well, you've all played the game. Like, you don't have time to stand at the line of scrimmage and think those 9 things. All right, it's 4 down. There's the point. He's here. I'm doing this, and then go execute at a high level. Right. So that's just kind of the mindset that we use in the room of, you're going to paint this big picture, right? You got to start with little brush strokes there. So what is that? Who's the downs? Who's that guy? Okay, I have 1 from there or 2 from there. I have no one from there. I have help. I don't have help. And then let your technique take you home that way. And just really, I'm not smart enough to do it any other way. I got to be systematic for myself, so that when they ask questions on the sidelines, or they come over and say, Coach, that backer bumped out to here, I can draw it up and say, okay, we're going to go to this. And then they grasp onto it. And it's not, well, maybe we'll try this. And because then they're looking at you like, well, shit, if he don't know, then maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Right. So, and that's the message delivered to them. But yeah, probably there's a few sayings in there that I have, but they've just become so habitual to us in our room that's common language to us. I like putting up 3 fingers when we score a touchdown. When they see that, they know we're kicking the field goal for the extra point. So that's a good one to throw up.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals.
Justin, Matt, sort of suggested maybe a couple weeks ago to me that foot was never going to be completely right for him this year. I don't know if that's true or not, or how much to talk about it, but it just seems like he's hurt but not injured, wants to keep playing and battling through it. What have you seen from him physically, just to get out there every single week? And then if it does catch up with him at some point, I don't know if it will, what have you thought about Enoch and Fryer coming in to help there?
Yeah, I think that the first part of your question, simple, is Matt's like a lot like we talked with Paris and Donnie and those guys. Like Matt's never played like a full season. And so Matt's learning what it feels like to really be the guy all the time, right? I've told all those guys, the minute you play major college football, you're never going to wake up in the morning feeling great ever again. You're going to crack your ankles or your wrist or your elbow or something, because it's the nature of the position, right? So I think more than that, he's just learning that's kind of what the game is. It's not hampered him at all. I mean, he's playing really well. Still moving guys in a run game when we're asking him to, protection wise, coming off and doing some things. So not any big issue there. And then, yeah, I mean, the big thing with those other guys you talked about is just creating depth with all those young guys. And we've been fortunate enough now where we've gotten a lot of those reps that are late in the game where guys are up in the true double digits, almost triple digits, getting some good gradable tape and being able to go play the game. And so you're always trying to, whether it be in practice reps or one-on-one pass rush versus Larry's guys, where you're trying to build that depth so that if the next guy up mentality happens, that guy's going to go in and continue to help you win the game. I mean, Enoch's done that twice for us already this year. I mean, when in the Notre Dame game, Matt got, I think his shoe popped off when he got rolled up on and he couldn't go. And Enoch goes in on a critical situation and we run a GT counter and he pulls and kicks the guy out and we rush it for 10, 12 yards in the red zone. And then he runs off the field. So being ready to make your play when your number's called. I mean, that goes back to, some of the sayings, Clay, we're talking about here, like that's competitive excellence. That's the definition of it on film. He did it again this week. Same deal. Matty's shoe popped off and all of a sudden he's running off holding the shoe. Enoch goes in and we slide to the right, pick up a twist game and we hit Mecca for a touchdown. So, staying ready and being ready. He's done a really good job with that and just continuing to play and build, because you never know when your number is going to get called.
Gigantic shoe.
You might be onto something there.
Right next door, Tim May, let it grow.
You just touched on what I want to ask you about. You also said you think y'all are doing a good job of this, but the games that they're playing up front defensively, y'all have seem to be doing a pretty good job of quick awareness, et cetera. I mean, I know that comes from reps and teaching and stuff, but you still got to react right now of what's going on, right? How that group is doing. I mean, Saturday was I thought a clinic in some respects on that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, we'll put that on this guy's list too. They did a good job. We saw some movement, some stuff. That goes back to what Berm was saying though too. I think of like as you build those reps with those guys and then the comfort, right? So then now at practice, we're practicing against Jack and Zach and JT and inside and trying to block Mike Hall and these guys, and Jerron's played a lot of ball. So big, strong-handed guys. So you're getting some reps on top that maybe not on film, but you still can touch a little bit so that if it does show up. And so for us in line play, what is that? Yeah, if you can move some stunts and some movements up front on top of just lining up in an over or under front, we're able to do that now with our guys because they've got banked reps and they understand the speed of the game and they have some of those things. So it's not flashing on them for the first time and then you're drawing it up saying, oh, right, maybe you haven't drawn that exact twist game up, but they're accustomed twists because it's hard to block. Like I said, you got JT and Jack Sawyer all of a sudden mugging up there in practice, and you're working on a twist game against full speed guys that way. It makes it a little easier to handle it on Saturday.
You can have a big guy and you can teach power and you can demand physical play and stuff, but it looks like this front relishes lining up and just knocking somebody back. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Where would you rate them in that realm? Because one of the things, obviously, Ryan wanted to get fixed was the physical aspect, in some games from last year to now. But how would you rate this line on that realm right now?
I mean, we rate it every week, and so the toughness and the finish, and we grade plus blocks versus knockdowns and things, and we've graded well every week. But you have to. That's kind of in the realm of toughness itself. Like you have to bring that every week. You don't play tough one week and then forever you're a tough team. Like when your number's called, you got to make the play. Like toughness for me Saturday was 4th and short at the -40. And we made the call. The guys executed the call. And then the next play, we go down and we score a 50-some yard pass play. So that's toughness in itself, as opposed to maybe mauling a guy all the time or breaking a guy's back over a pile and those things. But it's a week by week thing that you just, once again, you got to hamper. If you don't see it on tape and you see a guy pull the parachute or stop early, you got to tell him about it, right? If you see a guy that does it well, then you got to highlight that and say, we need more of this and here's why. And then they feed off of that so that it doesn't become something that they're looking for in a situation of like, oh, I have to do this now, but it starts kind of becoming habitual for those guys. So, week by week, that's how you judge it. And circling back to the beginning of it, you have to start there. You can't just put a stamp on it and say, well, now we're tough, right? Because we did X, Y, and Z. You got to do it every week.
Right behind him, Doug Lamreese, Cleveland.com.
When you guys are in your offensive game planning meetings each week, just what are the ideas like in there? What's Ryan like in there leading the show? What's it like with everybody collaborating? Just can you describe that your first year here? What's it been like?
Have you seen the movie The Hangover? When he's coming down the escalator and there's pi times radius squared, and all of a sudden there's all these ideas and stuff that start flowing. No, that's a bad joke. So yeah. So I would say just it's fun because we all see through the same lenses and we all speak the same language. So it's from a staff starting point. Like, we know what our guys are good at, the skill sets that they're good at, and how do we find those plays to get them into, whether that be formationally, whether that be personnel grouping. Those are all things that week in and week out, doesn't matter who you're playing, you got to kind of, vet through those things. And then as you start, once again, we use again, trimming the fat and going through of, they're all good plays. Like, you're never going to put up a play on the board and be like, this is a crap play. Let's run this, right? They're all good. But if you get spread too thin or you're too heavy one way, that's not good. So we just do a good job of, like I said, looking through the lenses of, all right, what are we good at? How do we need to attack this coverage? How do we need to attack this formation? And then what is good within that based on the skill set of what our guys can do. And then you just kind of piece it together that way. And then as you go through the week, the kids are heavily involved in it too. I mean, you present, we like this and this, and all of a sudden, Luke Whippler may come back like, hey, coach, I really feel good about doing this block on this one versus this. Is that something we can look at? And then you say, yeah, we can adjust that. Or, you know what, that's too difficult. It's too much thought process, and let's take it out because it's time to task that way. So, but that's a weekly deal based on who you're playing and the defensive structure and who's in the game plan, who's playing, who's not playing. Those are all things that we have to look through. But it's fun. Early in the week, it's a lot of fun because you're watching a lot of ball, you're watching a lot of tape, you're getting a better feel for what's coming at you, and then you try to attack yourself early in the week in practice so that by Saturday, the guys can go out and execute those plays.
Guys, we're not going to be able to get through everyone, but we'll go a few more. Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Justin, speaking of Luke, he said one of the things he likes about you is the way that you've been able to tailor coaching to each individual player, not just the position, the skill set, personality. You just got here, this year. Can you describe the challenge of doing that, and what was your kind of strategy for doing that?
Challenge in positive connotation, I would say, because that's what, once again, in coaching, that's what you're supposed to do. Just early on, getting a feel. You got to find a common ground for each kid and who they are, what they're about, what pushes them, how do they react to certain situations or certain things, and then ultimately just coaching those guys. So as we've alluded to a couple times, like, so that at 4th and 1 at the 50-yard line, everybody does their job, right? If the left tackle and the center needed hot pink tip sheets because that's why they see it better, and the right guard needs 72 walkthrough reps, and the right tackle needs yelled at this many times or fired up on this, whatever you have to do to get those guys to do their job, that is your job as a coach, right? Because as I said, like, I haven't taken a snap in a long time, and the ones that I did back in the day at the end they were pretty rough anyway, so it's probably a good thing, right? So but that's the fun challenge in coaching is understanding your guys, coaching your guys, getting them to go maximize themselves, and then when they have success, like, you feel good about that because you've helped them do what they want to go do, right? And that sounds super cheesy, but that's just a fact. That's why college football is fun still that way, because big, strong, DeJuan Jones walks through the door frame and he's huge, but he's still just a 21-year-old guy. He's still just a young man learning and growing. In Paris, and all these guys, they do all this stuff. Matt Jones is a 5th-year guy. He's always an old veteran. He's 22 years old, right? 23 years old. Like, he got a lot left to him. So finding the ways to help those guys maximize themselves, but ultimately for us to win the games, that's the fun challenge in it, Bill.
Third row left, Dan Van Hope, Lebanon Warriors.
Justin, you guys have done a lot of different things in the run game this year, but Ohio State wasn't doing last year. What has your role been in kind of helping bring some of those ideas to the table in the run game?
Well, it's not so much me. It just goes back to what we talked about before, like game planning. Like I think the skill set of the guys that we have and what we can do, and we're able to do at a high level, you try to find those year in and year out, right? And so, I mean, just as you go through the room, I mean, you look at all those guys in the staff room. It's not just me, but I mean, Tony's coached a lot of good backs, and they've run it a lot of different ways, whether it be inside zone, outside zone, some pin and pulls, some zone reads. I mean, there's a lot of experience in there. You know, obviously, you know, when Ryan and I were together before, I mean, we were in the 50-yard line and 32 personnel a lot of the time. So I think just the mix of everyone in that room having expertise of history of what they've done and how they've done it, and then able to kind of, you know, tailor that to our guys that we have now has been the biggest part. So, me, nothing. I mean, I got to get the 5 guys up front to play really hard and block the right guys. If it's my idea one week, or it's somebody's this, or it's collectively us, that it doesn't matter as long as we're doing it at a high level right now. And that's what we said. That's what we judge week in and week out to make sure that when we're supposed to run it, we run it. When we're supposed to protect, we do it. And that's a whole group effort versus just me rolling in a room.
Right in front of him, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Brought the 4th and short, but you didn't get it on the 3rd and 2 the time before that, and then obviously the quarter ends. Are you harping on run that ball again? It's just because 4th and 1, just because of the way you talked about needing to be able to run the ball when everybody knows running the ball. So you may be harping on that.
Well, you just have to have a call ready to go that if that's the situation is needed, then you're comfortable with the kids. I mean, we didn't call a bad call on 3rd and short that we didn't get. We just, you know, you got to execute it better, whatever it may be. But then on to the next play. Like, you know, in that case, when Coach Day's standing over there and we're all talking on the headsets, what do we like? Where do we want to go? He's got a mindset of what he wants to do and what he wants to call, but you just need to have something available that, you know, your guys are going to execute well because they have confidence in it. They've done it during the week. They've seen the looks. And so, yeah, you got to have something in your pocket ready to go if, you know, as we talk about as a staff, and just so that the kids can go do it.
And final question, front row, middle here, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
DeJuan came into this year a little lighter than he was before. Just what have you made of his first 6 games?
Same deal. I mean, I think he's playing football higher level than he ever has because he wants to, right? Just like you said, all those things that may be little things as a younger guy or that you don't know are big things, as you start playing more, become big things. So being able to keep your weight down so that you can play faster and you're not as fatigued late in the game, being able to, you know, stay after practice and get some pass sets or some extra work that he wants to work on with his hips or his hands or his feet or whatever it may be. The run drills in practice. I think just the drills and the work as you grow up and you mature and you start seeing the big picture become more important. Not that they weren't before, but the understanding of why am I doing this rep? And then the application of this rep in an individual drill or versus the defensive line, and where does that apply to a game? I think the maturity, that part of it where he sees that, or he'll ask, hey, coach, can I get one more of these? Because I'm not comfortable on the back side of this or front side of this. I want to get that. So I'd say he's getting better every week and playing good ball every week because he wants to, and it's important to him. And he's training that way. And that's a really good workman's mindset to have as you go through a season, you know, because a lot of guys will all of a sudden it gets hard and you get into it and then you want to plateau a little bit, or you don't know the challenges and get a little fatigued. Whereas these guys right now, they understand we got to incrementally get a little better every week, you know, in the technique and the physicality and the toughness and all those things, because that's when you can really separate yourself from a lot of other teams that maybe start to plateau or lose some guys to injury. That you can double separate because you're continuing to get better and they've stopped, right? So your rate's going up as fast as it is, on top of separating yourself even more from teams that maybe can't sustain that.
Coach, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.